Hey everyone, this is J-Dog, and I'm here with another video. Well, looks like some karma is coming to the Louisville Police Department. Looks like they're gonna start suffering some karma. This is from Redders, because of there being no justice for Breonna Taylor, someone has decided to retaliate against the ruling of Breonna Taylor by having two police officers shot. Now, we're not sure if they have been killed. So far, they've only been considered wounded. But this happened in Louisville, Kentucky, the same city in Kentucky where Breonna Taylor was killed. It says here, 2 police officers were shot and wounded late on Wednesday in Louisville, Kentucky during protests of a grand jury's ruling decried by civil rights activists as a miscarriage of justice, and it was a miscarriage of justice, in the fatal police shooting of Breonna Taylor in March, because they did not give any charges for the murder of Breonna Taylor. They just gave the one cop, Brett Hackison, the one who got fired, charge of wanted endangerment because he shot at other areas near the building, but not the charge of murder against Breonna Taylor, on Breonna Taylor, or the murder of Breonna Taylor. And that if Brett Hankison does get convicted, that he only have to face 5 years. But they'll try to get him off, or they will try to reduce his sentence if he does get convicted. But now it looks like the police department karma is starting to affect some of the other police officers in Louisville, including 2 of them being shot. The grand jury's decision that none of these 3 white officers involved in the deadly police raid on Taylor's apartment would be charged for causing her death, though one officer was indicted on charges of endangering her neighbors. So her neighbors get somewhat, so I guess they're trying to give her neighbors justice, but not Breonna Taylor. The indictment came more than 6 months after Taylor, 26, a black emergency medical technician and inspired nurse, was killed in front of her armed boyfriend because the boyfriend was trying to save her life or protect her, because he didn't know if they were cops, because they never announced themselves as police, and they came in at a no-knock warrant. I mean, they could just barge in without warning, and they were in plain clothes too. After the 3 officers forced their way into the home with a search warrant in a drug trafficking investigation, because they arrested the suspect and they went to the wrong house, but I bet you they purposely went to the house, because a lot of people also said that someone may have purposely sent them to that house was because they were trying to get rid of Breonna Taylor and Kenneth Walker, because of the rumors of gentrification going on in their same neighborhood. So they're trying to get rid of as many of the citizens, either force them out or have them killed, so that their homes will be up for grabs. Her death became a symbol and her image a familiar sight during months of daily protest against racial justice and police brutality in cities across the United States. Last month, media mogul Oprah Rig Freak, featured Taylor on the cover of her magazine, calling for prosecution of the officers involved in her slaying. that's because she only did that because Jason Black put up billboards honoring Breonna Taylor. So that celebrity, Oprah Winfrey, wanted to be put on the spotlight because, you know, Oprah Winfrey has been facing a lot of controversy. So in order to do a Oprah Winfrey just did that as a PR stunt to try to get some relevance back. Because that's why I shout out to Jason Black for doing those billboards. Then Oprah had to come along and try to make it about her and try to do that PR stunt and trying to basically get people to ignore what Jason Black was doing, which didn't work. So screw Oprah. Following the grand jury's announcement, protesters immediately took to the streets of Kentucky, large city, and marched for hours chanting "No Lives Matter" until Black Lives Matter, amid sporadic clash with police and riot gear. See, the police wear riot gear when it's peaceful protesters that are protesting against police brutality towards black people. But they don't wear that same riot gear when you have crazed, Trump-supporting armed militia, white racists, marching into state capitals. The demonstration remained mostly peaceful until several gunshots rang out as heavily armed police closed in on a throng of protesters at nightfall, ordering the cops to disperse about a half an hour before a 9 p.m. curfew was due to go into effect. A written journalist on the scene heard gunfire erupt from the crowd moments after police had fired chemical irritants, forgive me if I pronounce that, and flashbang rounds. 2 officers were shot and wounded. Interim Louisville Metropolitan Police Chief Robert Schroeder told reporters one suspect was arrested and the 2 wounded officers were in stable condition. So they managed to get the suspect. You see how they immediately arrested the suspect when 2 officers were wounded, but they took them but the officers that killed Breonna Taylor were never arrested. It took them nearly 6 months to charge one of them with some kind of crime, which was not the crime of murdering Breonna Taylor. Okay, I already read that part. One undergo surgery with non-life-threatening injuries. I know a lot of people hoping they were life-threatening. Scordora says he's give no further details. Earlier in the day, about a dozen people were arrested in skirmish between hundreds of demonstrators and a group of law enforcement officers in Highlands neighborhood just outside downtown Louisiana. Some windows of nearby print businesses were also broken. The crowds were largely disputed after Wednesday night's shooting. Police said at least 446 arrests were made, but know that if these were armed militia white supremacists, no arrests would have been made. Sympathy protests of various sizes were also held in several other cities on Wednesday, including New York, Washington, Atlanta, and Chicago. This is kind of a long article, but I will leave a link to it to read at your own time. Now I want to read this other article real quick. Let's see if I All right. Louisville police chief very concerned about safety after two officers shot amid Breonna Taylor's protests. So that police chief that I actually mentioned earlier is more concerned about the safety of the police officers, but the police department was never concerned about the safety of the protesters or the safety of Breonna Taylor. See, these officers think they can't be touched. Sorry about that. See, these officers think they can't be touched. So, yeah, even if the legal system don't touch them, that does not mean, and I'm not advocating for it, so yeah, you can't come after me because I didn't advocate for it, but that doesn't mean those officers cannot be touched any other way. See, this is what happens when you don't give justice to those who have been victims of police brutality. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where people are going to start fighting for their own justice, regardless of what the law thinks. Because so far the law is not protecting the people, so the people are going to eventually have to fight for justice many other ways. Because the police are too corrupt and too racist to actually upheld the law and upheld the Constitution and fight for true justice for victims, whether they're victims of criminals or victims of racist cops. And also because the good cops are not doing enough or anything at all to fight against the bad apples in their departments. See, that's another thing. If the good cops tried to take over and get rid of all the bad apples, some of this wouldn't have been happening. So yeah, this talks about the police officers, and then it talks about now this is the interim police chief, because I think the one police chief they had before either got fired or stepped down. And of course, you have idiotic President Ronald McDonald Trump. He only cares about the two officers that were shot, but he didn't have this kind of sympathy for Breonna Taylor. And, you know what? It's not like he ever was. I don't care if he does it, but see. And also notice he probably only is praying for the two officers because they probably believe the suspect was black or that the suspect was fighting on the side of Breonna Taylor. So that's about, because if it was a white supremacist that shot two police officers, he probably would, Ronald McDonald Trump over here would probably say nothing. But yeah, you got the police chief, Robert Schroeder, whatever his name is, saying that I'm very concerned about the safety of our officers, but you weren't concerned about the safety of the protesters or the safety of Breonna Taylor. I'll leave this other article in the comment section, just like I'll leave the other article that I just read earlier in the comment section in the description box as well, so you can read both of these articles at your own time. But yeah, but screw your other officers, Robert, because your police department did not concern about the safety and about the safety of the protesters and about the safety of Breonna Taylor. So why should I care about your corrupt police department, police chief Robert? Screw you. Yeah, I could care less about the Louisville Police Department because of what they did to Breonna Taylor. Before I end this video, I want to say first, my condolences goes to the family and friends of Breonna Taylor. The only thing they got out of this was a $12 million settlement. But even they still wanted justice for Breonna Taylor. Another thing, but still, my condolences go to the family and friends of Breonna Taylor. And then also, I want to know what y'all think about this video. If you're trolling, then I will block you and remove your comment. Now, for those who are not trolling and support this channel and support Breonna Taylor, still also be careful, because especially if you're watching this on YouTube, because YouTube has been getting rid of comments that they don't like. So be careful how you write certain comments and certain words, and certain phrases. Write them in ways that don't look like it's going to offend YouTube or violate the community guidelines. But I still want to know what y'all think in the comment section. This is for those who are watching this video on YouTube, because I post this video in places like Black Junction TV as well. Make sure you hit that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell. If you're not getting notifications, unsubscribe, then resubscribe and re-hit that notification bell. That helps reset so you can probably get notifications. And also check every once in a while to see if I do a new video or not, if you're not getting notifications. And that goes to any of my platforms. I'll probably leave the links to my different accounts for y'all to follow me on: YouTube, Black Junction TV, Twitter, etc. Follow me on those platforms. That might help you also be able to follow me. Like I said, I'll leave the link to these 2 articles in the description box and comment section. But that's all I have to say about this situation. Thank you for watching. This is J-Dog, and I hope to catch y'all in another video. Peace, everyone.